Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the SAG Report. I'm your host, Devon Decker, and hopefully you didn't just hear me going as a warm-up. Joining me, as always, for this episode of the SAG Report is my host companion and the current poobah of Fraser, Sejohn Sarowick. How you doing, Sejohn? How you doing?
I mean, if they didn't hear you before, I don't know why you thought that would be helpful.
Well, if they heard me before, then they're, not terrified. The podcast is not haunted by an old man in a mask trying to scare you away so he can develop the land. I don't get Scooby-Doo.
Well, a lot of it had to do... I feel like this is a bit we've already done on the podcast.
So we have.
Go down this road.
We talk about Scooby-Doo a lot here.
Essentially, it's always land fraud, right? Like it's always
land fraud.
It always has something to do with somebody wanting to get land that does not belong to them, or keep land that does belong to them for some reason. Like, it's all about real estate on that show, and it's fucking wild. Especially if you look at the current landscape of things like the housing crisis in this country and realize, I kind of get it. I kind of get why those people were fighting for their shit so bad.
The other crazy thing is, I've always my favorite Scooby-Doo theory is that magic and shit does exist in the world. Because why is everybody so convinced that these monsters are real every time? There have to have been monsters at some point. Documented monsters. So that,
I don't know. That sounds like a zombie island apologists trying to, get their propaganda across is what that feels like to me.
I don't know. I like Zombie Island. It's Return to Zombie Island that's garbage. That 1-2 punch of garbage of Return to Zombie Island and The Curse of the 13th Ghost, retconning both of them to be people in masks. Yeah, I don't know. We're talking about Scooby-Doo, and you know what that means. Sejohn was amp tip all along. And I had to hold his feet to the fire. No. SAG-AFTRA, after 116 days, they're no longer on strike. And since they're no longer on strike, and they have accepted the new contract, we could talk about TV and movies again. And I decided to start it off with a Scooby-Doo bit that, as Sejohn rightly pointed out, we have definitely already done on the show.
We've probably done before.
We love Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, and I have so many other dumb conversations that every time we couldn't have one that I have written here.
Well, then warm it up.
I've got Seinfeld is just Disney. It's just Mickey and Minnie and Goofy and Donald, right? If you actually look at what that show is, that's all that it is.
Yeah, that's. Wow, we went to some dark places apparently, but you're not wrong.
I mean, yeah, right, and because this started because I was just I wonder if Seinfeld would have been nearly as interesting if Seinfeld had a cat, right? This was the thought, and that was the normal thought that then led me down this rabbit hole of just essentially Kramer is just his dog anyway, right? And then it was not a hard leap from there to start thinking about the idea of him being Goofy or Pluto. Well, he's definitely more Goofy, right? Because he definitely has more autonomy than Pluto does, but he is essentially just Seinfeld's dog.
I mean, that's the craziest thing about it. As weird as Seinfeld is just the Disney characters, right? Which means that Newman is Pete. I like that most of all.
See, there you go. Yeah.
Damn it, Sejohn. There's no flaws. I can't.
There's no flaws in this logic. Well, and there's something to be said about imagine any episode of that show with the Disney characters. Also, imagine any episode of that show where the disgraced Michael Richards is no longer the playing Kramer, but it's just a golden retriever. The jokes still work.
I mean, we are entering into Garfield without Garfield territory. Two very rich veins to explore. Turning Kramer into just a dog in literally every episode of Seinfeld, which I'm pretty sure AI could do.
Well, and I think they're probably going to have to do for the comeback special or whatever the hell.
I don't know. I'm not prepared to talk about.
But imagine if they do that and then they just recast Michael Richards as a dog.
What you got to do is you got to get the guy from Wilfred. That's what you do. And Kramer
Oh,
was
now
a dog
okay.
all
So
along.
so in this version, Seinfeld doesn't see the dog as a dog. Like Seinfeld sees like a being
Seinfeld
that he can't
sees
have
the dog
conversations with.
as Kramer,
Yeah.
who's
Okay.
essentially a guy in a dog suit. You just let
But
this
the rest of the
dog
world
keep
is
running
just
into
like,
the apartment, and they just all go with it.
can you believe that Jerry Seinfeld was so rich he had an entire apartment across from his just for his dog? Yeah, that's nuts, right?
That's insane. Like, I never realized how rich he was in that show. But what about the time the dog got cable for him? Like, that's where you have a lot of fun. Like the episode where he like has Elaine pretend to be the daughter of the guy who passes away to get the jacket back.
Right, yep.
She's just like, the dog really wants this jacket for some reason.
Or the whole mall episode of them caught in the parking garage, right? And you just think the entire time he's just depending on a dog to lead him to where the car is.
The
And
really
you're just like,
crazy thing
"Man,
about
Jerry."
that is that Kramer drove. It's Kramer's car that they took to the
Right.
mall. Like, it's fun because like it devolves as you like go deeper into it, but at the same time it works. What really works for me though is a Disney Seinfeld.
Mm-hmm.
Disfeld? Is that what you boom 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 boom?
Waltfeld?
Walt Feld doesn't. I mean, he's not Walt Disney. It is specifically Mickey as Jerry, Minnie
Right.
as Elaine, Donald as George, and Goofy as Kramer.
Well, and we haven't even talked about that, right? Donald as George is almost a 1-to-1, right? There's not
not
even
even-
a yeah.
That's not it.
There's no,
That was.
there's no changes to be made.
I
there.
want
That's
you to
just-
understand that you said Disney is just Seinfeld is just Disney, and I'm like, so George is Donald, then this works,
Yes.
and we're done. That means that Daisy gets to be there as Susan, but then Daisy dies. I'm having too much fun with this. Is Uncle Scrooge freaking his mom?
No.
And
Uncle
Dad?
Scrooge.
Like
No,
Jerry Stiller.
Oh, I know that's good though. I was gonna say Uncle Scrooge is his. No, it's
gotta
I got
be
the wrong
Jerry
uncle
Stiller.
though. It's
Oh,
gotta be
Uncle
Jerry
Leo?
Stiller. It's gotta be. I was thinking Uncle Leo, but Uncle Leo is Jerry's uncle, right?
Yeah.
He's not.
He's not related
Yeah.
at all to George. So I mean, you'd have to have Uncle Scrooge as Jerry Stiller, and that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's pretty good actually. Yeah.
I don't know who's I guess Mrs. Beakley. I'm going into extended DuckTale lore for the rest of George's family.
I just love that like you can have like you can start talking about like the guest stars as well, right? Because Clarabelle eventually has to show up as somebody, right?
Clarabelle's going to be the braless wonder, Suzanne Mishke. Because she just walks around with her udder out.
There it is, and that's it, people. We got to the bit. We got there. All right.
Man, this is what
Fantastic.
we missed when we couldn't talk about TV and movies. That's a good one, though.
I have another one here. Let me see what's another one.
Wait, should I
middle-aged white mom, and this podcast is my friendship bracelet to the world.
What? I'm gonna need you to say that again.
Well, as we all know, that as we have not been able to talk about films and movies, the industry has been suffering greatly for the last 6 months, saved only by one Miss Taylor Swift. So that's what this is about. It says going to see the Eras tour, but like making my friendship bracelets and everything, so that I can be there and trade off with everybody.
Oh my God! Did you go see the Eras tour, Sejohn?
Well, so due to some unforeseen family shit that's been going on for the last couple of weeks, we ended up not being able to do it. But we had bought tickets for like the premiere and like spent like a week like putting together like outfits and friendship bracelets to go. Unfortunately, since we didn't get to go to our viewing of it, we've been just taking the friendship bracelets to parties and trading them with people, and that's been a blast because everybody still has theirs. But we have not yet seen the Eras tour, but we do have tickets for it in IMAX still. We're just waiting for the right time.
For the right time. That
use
seems
our
fair.
vouchers, I guess is what it would be.
I finally saw a video of Taylor Swift kissing Travis Kelce. So like now I
is it
believe they're
official?
really dancing. That they're really
Yeah.
dating. And it's not I almost said it and we weren't allowed to talk about Stroke Work. I honestly think it's like a drive me crazy, can't buy me love don't cost a thing. That's legitimately where I felt it was.
I
Like
was
it
thinking more
was.
like the "Marry Me," the big J Lo Owen Wilson hit of the beginning of the year that we again didn't really get to talk about too much before. Then we lost the ability to talk about anything. But that's what it keeps reminding me of. If anybody saw that movie, is it basically is like you walked in a room and she just kind of like threw a dart into the crowd. I don't know.
The thing is, Travis Kelsey is also popular and well known. So like there's a little gray area going into Marry Me. That was a good movie though, Marry Me, huh? Owen Wilson's having a tear. Haven't gotten to talk about that. Loki season 2, all the stuff he did there. Haunted Mansion 2023.
Yeah, I didn't get to talk about what might be my favorite mediocre hit of the year, Haunted Mansion.
Can
Like,
I
that was
tell
a
you
song.
my favorite fucking thing about what just happened? Nobody, I can prove it to you right here. I have a list of 31 things to talk about. They're my Baskin Robbins 31 flavors for after the strike when we can discuss struck work again. Number 26 is Haunted Mansion 2023 hyphen built on mediocrity.
I have told everybody. First of all, I saw that movie 3 times in the theaters.
Good for you.
I enjoyed that movie so much that I went back to it multiple times, twice by myself. Once on my own, I saw it and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome! I should bring other people because this is really good." And I did, and then they enjoyed it. And then another time, a couple of weeks later, I was like, go see Haunted Mansion again. And I just went out and I just did it. So like clearly I enjoy this film. I cannot deny that, right? And like and I have shown it to people since it hit Disney Plus. It's the right season for it, you know, with it being the spooky season and all that. Like it was a good time all around. And it basically hit me on all the same cylinders that Jungle Cruise did for us a couple of years back. Where we talked about the idea that there's definitely like flaws, would definitely go back for seconds. Like there's a lot to be said about how much I enjoyed stuff in it, but it is by far a perfect film, and it feels like Haunted Mansion kind of just spiritual sequeled right in there, as it were. Pardon the pun, I think maybe, but like came right in and was just like, yeah, we could do this too, and it's like, yeah, all right, fine, join this party.
Yeah, Jared Leto's here because
okay
Morbid time. I like the Jungle Cruise more. I will admit that I enjoyed the Jungle Cruise more. Haunted Mansion. Haunted Mansion began to grate just a little bit. And I think one of the reasons why it began to grate is that everybody fell asleep. So like I was kind of enjoying it, but then everyone was asleep and snoring and I'm like, do I stop it? Do I keep watching? I'm kind of invested even though I know where this is going.
Yeah, that's a hard situation to be in. Is at that point, it's like, man, I'm enjoying this, but if nobody else is, this isn't what I want to be doing right now.
Yeah,
I totally get that.
I should have done this on my own, maybe. I don't know, but I mean, like overall, my favorite part of Haunted Mansion 2023, huge spoilers for Haunted Mansion 2023, is that they sold that movie on Daniel Levy being in it, and he's in one scene.
He's in one scene in the background of it.
And
like he's never even up. Yeah. He's never even in camera.
And then he's playing It's a Small World After All on a pianoforte.
It's a Small World or is it? Yeah.
He's playing It's a Small World.
Or a dream. Yeah.
It's not an organ. It's a Small World After All.
Like a harpsichord.
On a harpsichord. Right? That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, so it sounds like ethereal and creepy, but then it's like, that's just a small world after all. I get the bit. And actually, it is funny because that mansion that he is at represents the one from Florida. And from the Haunted Mansion in Florida, you can hear Small World. So, like, they went, like, extra deep with it. But
no, there's so much good stuff in the movie. I mean, that movie, just like I feel the same way about the FNAF movie. Spoilers for that too.
I haven't seen it yet.
I'm probably not going to talk about that today, but eventually we will probably be talking about that. I mean, we have to. It's like this kind of mega pop hit right now. So, but anyway, the kind of the same feelings I have about that movie as well. I think that the design on these movies, like somebody has been knocking it out of the fucking park on costumes, on sets, on lighting, like all of this shit. These movies look amazing, and I'm finding right now that I'm totally okay if a movie looks fucking good, sounds good, like good soundtracks and shit like that. I'm willing to kind of sit through mediocrity in that regard, and I that was something that I discovered a lot during this whole time, because like there was just a lot of there's nothing pointing me towards a specific thing that everybody's talking about, so we need to watch this and all this and have these deep conversations. So it basically became this free for all of just like watch what you want, watch what you can, like figure this shit out. And I found a lot of stuff that I don't know how the rest of the world feels about it, but like I was enjoying myself. Definitely some things that that could be called out, right? Some various shows and things like that that I watched that I was like, this is fun. I don't think that this is ever going to go anywhere or is worth anything. Like, but I'm having a good time with it, and it's been so long since I've been able to feel that way about shit, right? Because like we've talked about this before for sure, but the age of the internet and the deeper we get into it, like the more and more and more, it just kind of becomes this like shared kind of hive mind bullshit about like what is acceptable and what isn't, and that's caused a lot of it's caused a lot more like either this thing hits or it's fucking burned, it's dead to us, right? Like the extremes, it's caused a lot more extremes in that regard, and like not having that for the last few months has been kind of nice.
Oh yeah, it's like I have to say, November 9th, 2023 fucking sucked for me. It's like every studio, everybody had their posts ready to go, and as soon as the strike was over, they all hit send at the same time. I was overwhelmed by just everything that was released on the 9th. And that's also following up before they even had a friggin' deal going, everything that happened on the 8th of November 2023 with a new Ghostbusters movie trailer. Like, there was a whole bunch of things that released on the 8th before then suddenly everybody could talk about stuff. I'm so sick of Dogpool, and Dogpool was only introduced to the collective consciousness 3 days ago.
What's Dogpool?
Dogpool is the Chinese crested that will be playing the role of Dogpool in Deadpool 3. They're just calling it Dogpool. It's a female dog. It already has an Instagram account. I cannot go 2 seconds on the internet without seeing something related to Dogpool. And I want to love Dogpool. I know who Dogpool is from the comics. I like that they went with a Chinese crested because I literally just watched How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days again. And there's a Chinese crested in that. And then the Chinese crested that was in Best Friends Whenever. I'm a fan of that type of dog as long as I don't own it. I don't think I could have one.
It's a weird amount of feelings to have about this. I don't.
No, it's not. It's not even about this. It's the fact that just Dogpool is that representation of like what you were talking about extremes. Like everybody seemed to latch on to Dogpool, and it's like I can't go. Every account was retweeting shit about it, and I don't even know what to do. The movie's not even coming out for a year, and what the hell?
I know. Like, well, I know what you could do. You could probably just leave Twitter.
And I have. I mean, like I shut it down. I'm still on Twitter, but like when I got overwhelmed by just all of the promotional stuff that came into the world on that one day after almost 4 months away from it. 4 months without being over inundated with commercials and viral marketing schemes and all of that. I just there's enough internet for me. Goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
Goodbye. All right. So you got to talk about a comparison thing. When's the last time you saw Father of the Bride?
Which version?
Well, that's a good question. Steve Martin, 91.
It's been a few years, but I do know that the Andy Garcia one that came out 2 years ago was
it was like 2020 or 2021, yeah.
Yeah, so, pretty moderately well received, and around that time there was a lot of buzz about like watching like the old version and the new one and all that, and I think around that is probably when I got caught up in rewatching it.
Yeah.
So probably about 3 years, I would say.
Yeah, and Murders in the Building, only Murders in the Building. The fact that Steve Martin and Martin Short were working together again, I think that was another reason. Alongside the remake, like, oh, we could see a movie where they were acted together. That's fun.
Yeah.
So Father of the Bride, we rewatched Father of the Bride because of Only Murders in the Building season 3, and a lot of American Dad was taken from Father of the Bride in terms of like how the family is set up and things such as that. I was kind of blown away.
Right, yeah, but you have to consider that part of the bit with like Father of the Bride is that it is supposed to be the quintessential family makeup, right? So it's not. I don't think that it's American Dad is taking from Father of the Bride, but rather they are both harping on the same kind of like nuclear family 2.5 kids like conversation, right? Like
Well,
that we see.
you can say that, and you're not wrong, right? They are both harping on the same thing. But then there comes the time where there is most definitely homage.
Yes, that's a whole other thing. Is that American Dad is also one known quite quite well for its ability to lean into a bit like that. So yeah,
Like the George Banks is Steve Martin's character, but his middle name is Stanley. That's pretty much it. That's what made me think about it. And then I'm
Myth
like,
confirmed.
It just. Well, here's the thing. I had this idea so many, like 3 months ago. No, at least 2 months ago. And I was all fleshed out and ready to talk about it. And now it's all gone from my head.
But I've still got a bunch here.
Oh, I have a bunch still, but yeah, I had more.
Mean Girls, an epic in 23 parts. We do.
No, thank you.
Just in smack dab in the middle of this entire strike about, hey, emerging technologies have really made us want to reconsider what our contracts look like, and fucking Paramount just being like, hey, we're gonna release this movie on TikTok. It's like, fucking what the hell?
Hey, you know what? I disagree with it. I don't think it was the right thing to do. But no, I don't have anything. I hate Mean Girls. I'm kind of mad that they're hiding that the new one is a musical, which is crazy to me. Like, I thought it was literally just a remake of Mean Girls, but like in the modern age. And then I saw the trailer before the Marvels. I saw the Marvels. We're not going to talk about it today because I don't know if you've had the chance to, and we should give people the opportunity to see the movie before we talk about the movie.
How deep do people have to get into Secret Invasion to get what's going on in
the biggest lie ever told was that Secret Invasion was a prequel to the Marvels.
Okay.
That was
I
marketing 2000 to try to get people to watch Secret Invasion.
Okay, I kind of got the impression once we started seeing some trailers and some stuff coming out about it, but without having the movie in front of me, obviously I couldn't ask anybody to clarify that. But now that that's the ability, well, I'll be honest, part of the reason I didn't go out and see it this weekend is because I was under the impression I had to finish Secret Invasion, and I've only got a couple of episodes left, but I still wasn't finished, so I thought I'll finish that up first and go see it next week.
Yeah, because that's what they told you had to do, but that was a lie. Just there's no other way to paint it. That was a lie, and. Yeah, like not even because my mother was like, "So wait, where was this and where was that? And is this person?" And it's like, no, I know why you would think all of those things because the Disney company told you that Secret Invasion is going to be important to this movie, and no. You've seen Secret Invasion? You've seen essentially the space elevator,
right?
That's the thing that was introduced to the world. From Secret Invasion.
But like I would have gotten all right. Anyway,
you would have understood that. No, that's it.
But the Mean Girls musical movie was announced like 3 years ago. You didn't realize that was what they announced when they announced it?
Well, no, but when I saw, first of all, I hate fucking Mean Girls. I'm just gonna go put that on the table. I'm not a big fan of the show. It really bothered me when I was going to be on Millionaire that they're like, oh, we could do a bunch of stuff with Mean Girls. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like that movie. I understand that you're my producer and you're trying to build my character. I'm not playing somebody who likes the movie Mean Girls. I'm not going to do that. Next, please. And we worked it out, right? I got to do some Cheers stuff and that was fun. But I'm not a fan of Mean Girls. So I knew that there was a musical, and I think they'd be stupid if they didn't take the musical and then make it a movie, right? Because of just the insane popularity that Mean Girls has. But then when I saw the trailer, it just looked like a straight music. It just looked like a regular play, not a musical. And then it was on Twitter later where they're like, oh, they're advertising this as like a straight play, but it's clearly a musical. And then the trailer that played before Captain Marvel actually had one scene with singing in it.
Yeah, I haven't seen any trailers for it yet,
yeah.
But I knew that when they said that they were announcing Mean Girls that it was the musical. Part of that is we know somebody that was actually in the original run of the show and stuff like that, and
Right.
we've been poking and prodding at them to see if they have any information, because I didn't know if maybe they got to show up or not. But they have not told me yet. To be clear, I do not have any clarification in that regard. But yeah, we've been kind of keeping an eye on it for a while, because, like I said, we know people that were involved in the original run of the show. So like we're super excited, because they're potentially
Yeah.
going to get some big opportunities with them making a movie out of it.
I don't know. I do not follow it. My extent of knowledge of Mean Girls is that one time I watched it and all of the references to the musical in the show Champions, the 10 episode show where Anders from Workaholics owned a gym that was failing.
I not the biggest part of that show, but sure, yeah, let's go.
Well, I mean, I guess so. He also finds out that
he also had a kid with Mindy Kaling,
yeah,
which is the
Secret
actual plot
Son
of that show.
and-
But yeah,
yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I like that show. I like Champions a lot. I'm sad that it's gone, but there's a lot of references to Mean Girls the musical, which makes sense because it was NBC and that's what they do. They make references to other things that they own.
what else have you got?
What else have I got? I'm upset at the American Dad, Father of the Bride thing. I had less than I thought I did. I had so much at the time. Yeah. You know what? We're going to talk about, like, you just, like, throw a dart and pick movies and things, and then you make your decision. I got two of those of my own. One is Joyride, the 2023 film with Ashley Park and a lot of other great just Asian actors. That movie was excellent. I've watched that movie twice. I'm so happy that I bought it sight unseen. I'm upset I didn't go see it in theaters. But, I mean, my big thing, we haven't really been talking about it. If I can't see it in laser projection or IMAX, I'm not going to the movie theater anymore. It is the same price for non-premium viewing, and that's bullshit.
That's wild. Out here, AMC is very big on doing the dynamic pricing right now. That's like a huge thing for them. So depending on the type, the version of the movie, like what you're talking about, depending on time of day, depending on which day of the week, and depending on how close to holidays we are, like there are some movies I can get to, and I can get like an $8, $9 ticket, depending on what I want to, what I'm willing to do. At most, I think that the tickets could be like $16.50. I think if it's an IMAX projection on like a Friday night of a premiere, like then I think the tickets are somewhere in the $16 to $17 range. And again, like that's all dynamic, because that was the price of going to see, for instance, I think for the Eras tour tickets that I think we bought, I think they were like the $18 price. But I went to go see Guardians just earlier this year in the exact same theater on the exact same time in the exact same showing, and the ticket was still $14, which is not as cheap as some of the other tickets I've bought for that kind of space. But it was $14 to go see that, and almost $20 to go see Taylor Swift. Not 3 months later.
Yeah.
4 months.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not really fucking with movie theaters anymore, like since the pandemic. But there's that one laser screen that is 5 miles down the road. It's where I've seen all the Marvel stuff. It's where I saw Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. It's like, that's where I'll go. And those tickets, if it's a matinee, are $13. And if it's after 5, then it's $16. And like, that's the price to see other stuff at the same time. And I can't get behind it. Like, I wanted to see Haunted Mansion, but they never put it in laser projection. So I wasn't going to go sit in a small theater with a screen that's, like, comparable to the screen I have in my house.
Yeah.
Like, and then I also don't have to bother with... Here's what I'll talk about the Marvels right now. People don't know how to fucking go to the movies anymore. That was an hour and 45 minutes long. And the people in front of us got up 4 times. Like, I don't know what you're doing. Like, one bathroom break makes sense, right? Or, like, one refill of your snacks. Like, it's just like people couldn't... They just don't have the attention span to go see a movie in the theater anymore.
Well, I know one of the big criticisms that a lot of people have had in this regard regarding Swift and the Eras tour is that a lot of people are going to it that are treating it like it's just a concert, right? And
Hmm.
so there's a lot of stuff like people singing along, dancing in the aisles, but also things like getting up and leaving and coming back, or getting high in the theater. Like a lot of stuff out here that people are talking about exactly in this regard, but they're attributing it in those cases specifically to the type of movie it is. But I agree with you, as somebody that has been going to theaters kind of in and out for the last few months to like see some stuff. It's like this at every movie now. Like people are, I think, really surprised with the Taylor Swift stuff because so many people have been going to that it's more people are kind of seeing that. But anybody that's been to an actual movie in the last like year or 2 years like can tell you this exact same thing, is that people have just people have just completely lost all like regard for the fact that they are like at an event. And a lot of that is on, you know, people just kind of like losing their any pretense, right? But via the pandemic, whether they, you know, maybe never had it to begin with, but or whatever. But some of that is also on like kind of just like the veil has been pulled on like what going to the movies is. It is it we forget like it used to be such a huge event thing, and then it became kind of like passe and normal. Like kids would just go and you have those stories about like groups of kids just going into movies, not even watching, leaving halfway through, kind of shit like that. But at some point, like we started kind of reattributing like the event night like attitude towards it, and I think that's on like the cinemas trying to really push that so that you are willing to spend $20 on popcorn and soda, that you are willing to show up. And you know, it's why they started putting bars in theaters and why they started putting restaurant like style, and you can like order the food and bring it in with you type stuff. Like they turned it into this big event thing. I think we're just looping back around again to people just like kind of losing their kind of, you know,
There's
they
no
don't want it to
reverence
be
for the
that.
movie theater anymore.
Right. There's no, but they don't want to have reverence for it. Like it's not even like they are actively like fighting against. They just don't. They don't see the need for it. And in some cases, like we haven't really been given a reason to be to be reverent at movie theaters for, you know what I mean? Like then you see things like Scorsese talking about people wanting to have bathroom breaks in the middle of Killers of the Flower Moon, and all of this shit about like them like straight up suing theaters that were actually putting like intermissions in them and things like that. And there's this level where you're like, man, I really wish people respected like going to this piece of art for what it is in this way, but nothing has given them a reason to respect it in that way in the last few years either, right? Like I think it's a double-edged sword. I think it is people that have just kind of lost all sense of pretense of you know, having any reverence for the cinema, but I also think it's because we haven't had cinemas really give us a reason to be reverenced for years, decades even.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. Like at the same time, I look at the theater I stopped going to because just terrible experience after terrible experience. So I start going to AMC. That's an hour away from my house, and they have, you know, the big reclining seats, and you have assigned seating from the beginning. You're choosing where you're seated. All of that is now at the theater that's 5 minutes from my house, and like it's like, okay, so like you're trying, right? Like you understood that people weren't coming here because the seating was garbage and you needed to update this. So like it's like they're trying, but the audience is not there for it
It also
anymore.
doesn't help. Well, and it
Yeah.
also doesn't help when you have 30 movies a year that are coming out that you're told you need to go see, and even half of those are actually not really movies you need to go see. Like the hype trains around shit nowadays like really make it so that you're experiencing that like FOMO. And again, all of that was pulled away. Like the veil was pulled away on all that shit because we spent 5 years sitting at home having these movies that we were told we needed to go out to a theater to go and see and experience, suddenly being like, well, except for this one, you can watch this one at home, and like this one's going to be out within like 30 days of it. Like we talked about this with off camera, off mic, because we couldn't talk about it on the show, but we talked about this with Turtles, right? The new like Mutant Mayhem this year. It was fucking wild. Less than 20 days. I think it was like 26 days, maybe less than 30 days from it premiering in theaters. It was available to just rent at home. And at that point, why the hell didn't they just release them day and date? Like, what did that like 2 or 3 weeks give them at a time when like people really weren't going to a theater? And like, I think the box office numbers for that movie show that like it was a, you know, mildly successful film in that regard. But I can't tell you how many people I mentioned that movie was out, and first of all, they didn't realize, and second, their next thought was, but I want to watch that one at home anyway, right? Like it just became part of the conversation for that movie, and I think they fed into that by releasing it less than a month later.
Yeah, it was 2 weeks because we
Yeah,
went
it
and
was
saw it.
wild.
We saw it early, and then yeah, within 2 weeks you could buy it, and then within I think 4 weeks it was available on Paramount Plus. It was super quick, the gestation period there. And it's because they want to capitalize on people viewing it, and they have the Tales of the TMNT show that's going to be set in that universe, and they're
but
already talking about
they're
sequels.
letting this whole they're letting this whole marketing complex, like this whole machine behind it, around it, really shape the whole narrative of the movie coming out now. Like so it's not a huge event to go and see this movie in theaters if I know I'll be able to watch it at home within the next 2 weeks. If it's not a movie that we can all talk about right now because nobody's out there doing advertising, part of that is the strike, but there was so much going on over the last 5 years that has really proven to people that they don't need to be part of this, right? And the industry is just going to have to accept that that's where it's at now. And I think that's where a lot of the kind of our frustration with some of the strike stuff started to really come in, is that there were people mostly on the studio side, but a couple of things being said by some of the actors, especially when you look at some of the stuff with like Clooney and all of them, like kind of jumping in and being like, well, we've got the money, and it's like, yeah, you've got the money now, but like the way that the things are going with the industry right now, like you guys really need to be thinking about this part of it too. And again, more of that frustration. In fact, 99.9% of that frustration is more on the studio side for me. Like, come on, like you guys cannot look at the industry as it currently stands and think that like milking it for all it's worth is really the best plan right now, right? Like now is the time to like hunker down and start saving some money up for a rainy day, because they are fucking coming.
I mean, honestly, part of the strike does feel like it was a way for Hollywood to cut so many things that they had agreed to during the pandemic, where the money was free flowing.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
all the
WB
shows that
already started.
yeah.
WB Warner Brothers Discovery has already started doing their second round culling for tax reasons, which is fucking nuts. That's just apparently just like standard practice for them now. Where just every year we're going to hear about a slew of TV shows and movies that are no longer available to us or we'll never get to see, period, because they realize that they can move some money around and work some magic and get like tax write-offs. Like, what was the big one this week?
No, this was Coyote versus Acme was the one that
Looney
everybody's crazy
Tunes,
about.
like mixed live action one that they were putting out, like has just been completely nixed.
I mean, and the crazy thing about that is it felt like reactionary to the strike. Like, oh, we were fine monetarily while we were on strike because we weren't paying people out. But now, like, okay, so now let's kick into how we were making money pre the strike, which is having fully completed things and then just erasing them from history.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think someone made a really good point about that, is that they're getting it as a tax write-off, right? It should go immediately into the public domain. There should be some sort of consequence to doing that.
Yeah.
Like, that's the weirdest thing about it.
At the very least, they shouldn't be allowed to do it every fucking year. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, why do they get to do this? Like, it's basically, they pointed out a loophole when they did this the first time around, and we should have done everything we could to close that loophole in the interim, but they're just going to keep taking advantage of it until somebody does something about that.
Well, they're going to keep taking advantage of it. I mean, the U.S. government has much bigger things that it needs to solve besides the loophole that makes Warner Brother money every year. Right? Like,
I think there's enough people in the government that somebody could maybe focus on this, would be my argument, because I mean, we already talked about how last year it saved them millions, if not billions of dollars, right? Like,
yeah.
Why? Like, I think that's a pretty big reason for the government to pay attention to a company, is millions, if not billions of dollars of tax write-offs suddenly magically happening, because it's not that the work wasn't done and the money wasn't spent. Like, they just figured out that if they attributed that money in a different way here or there, then suddenly, boom, they could talk about it being, I don't know, whatever they call it, charitable donation, I guess, or whatever bullshit they're trying to pull. Like,
it's some cost.
I don't
things
think
like that.
Yeah, but I don't think you get to say it's not a big enough fish to fry. Like, that's not how this shit works.
Well, the actual problem, Sejohn, is that it's too big a fish to fry. Like, why does Activision get to say that it's located in some European country so it doesn't have to pay any taxes to us and actually gets tax refunds from our government while they don't spend any money in our actual, country. So many big businesses are using tax loopholes. And if the government were to start closing those tax loopholes, they would piss off big business. And big business is the one who's funding both of the parties. It's a broken economic system. We're not going to solve it here on the SAG Report. And I don't think they're interested in solving it in Washington because it's what gives them power.
Yeah, but the problem is that this is leading to the death of an entire industry. So at some point, somebody better care, because we are really staring down a ton of closed projects. Like I said, at some point, people are going to have to make the decision whether or not they want to try and do anything creative with Warner Brothers Discovery anymore. I don't understand how you could watch the way that they've just gone in, especially if you were a smaller creator and you had a cartoon show or something and you were in the room with them and they were like, yeah, we'll produce this for you. I would have to give a long, hard think of, yeah, you'll produce this for me now this year, but what happens in 3 years when you need a tax write-off and suddenly this show is no longer available? This thing that I want to be out and in people's arms, is just no longer available to them. Why would you ever get in bed with that if you were in any way a creative, right? And it doesn't, it's not tenable in the long run, right? And that's just a minor example. The writ large, I think this all feeds back into the conversation we were just having about people not wanting to go to movie theaters anymore, is because they see this shit happening. They see these IPs and these concepts and these movies that they're interested in, these actors, these directors, these artists getting dicked around, and then the final product suffers for it, and people are just not interested in participating in that system anymore. And we are already hanging on by a thread, being saved basically every couple of months. A big enough movie comes out that kind of keeps things afloat for just a little bit longer. But basically, the film industry is living paycheck to paycheck right now, and that's fucking nuts.
Well, the only Disney movie that's made them any money is Guardians of the Galaxy 3, right? Everything that Disney has delivered this year has been a failure or a flop or not profitable. That's just a reality. There's a reason why Disney stocks are in the toilet right now, and they're raising prices at the parks to try to cover their losses. But the real disconnect stems from what they're saying is, we don't need this new stuff because we have the old stuff. Looking specifically at Warner Discovery, Adult Swim, this is something I wanted to talk about when it happened, now starts at 5 p.m. on Cartoon Network.
Really?
Which Adult Swim I always thought of as a programming block. I never considered it a second channel taking over, but that is 100% how it is structured. Is that you have Cartoon Network up until Adult Swim becomes the network. I thought of it as Nick at Night, right? It's a programming block. It's Nickelodeon at night, but it's still Nickelodeon. But no, Adult Swim is a completely separate entity from Cartoon Network. It's not really, but that's the way that they sell it to the FCC for broadcasting rights and everything like that. Now that it starts at 5 o'clock, what they show from 5 to 8 are old Cartoon Network shows, which is also crazy because you're trying to say this is Adult Swim, it's not Cartoon Network. But we're going to show Dexter's Laboratory and The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Courage the Cowardly Dog. And I don't remember what the fourth one that they show in that block is.
Probably Cow and Chicken or something.
Yeah, Cow and Chicken is what I thought, but I don't think they're showing Cow and Chicken. I don't know. I haven't ever watched it because I get home at 5 o'clock and then when I want to de-stress from work and then I'm making dinner. So I haven't ever watched it. But they're doing crazy numbers with what they call checkered past on Adult Swim. And they're looking at that and they're like, these are things that are 30 years old and it's still profitable. But then they're not looking forward to 30 years from now where all of the things that they're canceling or, essentially incinerating because they're not allowed, they give up their right to it, right? They essentially blank it from existence. What are you going to put on in checkered past 30 years from now if you've destroyed everything for tax write-offs?
Yep. No, that's what I mean. Is like
There's no
they're doing
nostalgia.
this weird thing. The only other thing that's part of this that we haven't gotten to yet that eventually I think we are going to see is we are going to hit a point where they're past some like statute of limitations, I guess, or whatever the right phrase would be, where they can suddenly come out and be like, the R-rated, unreleased, never before seen Batgirl, right? Like, and like they can put it out in 20 years as like a special edition, like DVD, and claim, and like, and then they're gonna reap in all of these fucking benefits from being like, oh yeah, like this special edition version of this movie that got pulled for tax reasons, and if they can pull that off on a few different fronts, like I mean, we talked about this last year when they went through this first round of all this bullshit. But like, if they put out a collection of Close Enough sometime in the next couple of years, the JG
The
Quintel
Yeah.
like show that I loved, like if they put that out, like I'd buy it day one. Despite the fact that I know that a lot of that money is going to a company that also like shit all over it, like it's the idea that I love that show and don't have legal access to it anymore. Would very much enjoy that. Thank you. Like, and so I would buy that. I would pay for that. And so there's already a built-in kind of incentive for them to revisit this shit. But I don't know if like I don't know what the timing would need to be on that. But you have to imagine that at some point the timer would run out on them having to keep it under lock and key, and then suddenly now they have all this shit in the vault that they can release as like this like surprise like a version in again it might be 20 years, but I bet we see that.
I want to watch the Batgirl so bad, I would pay for it. All like I don't know how we're still talking about Batgirl, and the fact that when it's been blinked from existence.
Well,
Like
I think because one of the big reasons that people can't stop talking about Batgirl is there's so much potential in what Batgirl was, especially when you look at the ways that Michael Keaton kind of was like everybody's kind of saving grace of the Flash movie this year, right? Or the ways in which Shazam 2 really kind of shit the bed, and Blue Beetle, like anybody I know that saw Blue Beetle enjoyed it, but I can think of two people in my world that I think saw that movie. Not in, and I didn't. I wasn't one of them, right? Like so there's something to be said about like it's kind of this mysterious like man like alternate reality like alternate timeline. What if this was the one they released and they had shelved Shazam too? Is I think the big one for a lot of people is like they feel like maybe there was a miscall there in that regard, but we also don't know what the numbers would have been one way or the other in that with that.
to those three movies you mentioned, all my response is, what are three movies that have never been in my kitchen? Those are three movies that I was kind of excited to see that I have not given any of my time to.
And I wanna make it very clear that I think that we'll never know anything about Batgirl, right? Like
Yeah.
that's just, or at least at least we won't until they want us to, which I'm still kind of betting that someday in our lifetime we do see that movie released, just like under mysterious circumstances. I think that Shazam 2 was building on an already flawed concept and had a lot of bullshit that was kind of working against it, and I just think it just didn't come out to be a good film. From everything that I understand about Blue Beetle, perfectly fun, like adventure, family, like superhero film. Like go out and see that movie. Give that movie the time if you can. It's just that who can nowadays, right? Who's got it in them to do this for a movie that otherwise kind of went nowhere?
Yeah. I mean, I had tickets to go see it and ended up canceling it because the people I was going to see were like, I don't really want to. Like, I had people visiting and like, oh, let's go see Blue Beetle. We always go see a superhero movie when you're around, and that's what's in. And then they're like, no, I'd rather do this. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's the only one that I had tickets for. I never had tickets for Flash. And that's the other thing. Like, that's the third movie I'm talking about and that's been on HBO Max for like 3 months.
Yeah, Flash is a weird one. I'm curious to see, man. I like Flash is so weird because for me personally, and we talked about this because this was pre-strike stuff, but like for me it was always about how I just don't think I've got it in me to go and see Ezra Miller not in more than one role carrying this movie for this hero that I like that I really like. So much about that movie was for Sejohn, right? There was so much in that movie that was really geared towards me, and it was really just this one thing that really turned me personally off from going to see it. But I know that other people had all sorts of other issues too, right? There's a lot of people that really just don't like the direction that the whole Snyder built DCEU was going. I'm actually really kind of curious to see how Snyder's next film does. if his fanboys that pushed HBO to the point where they released a 4-hour black and white version of Justice League, like, are they going to show up to support this new IP of his? Because like that was kind of their whole thing, was that WB and Discovery and whoever was in the room like was mistreating Snyder as a creative. But as we pointed out even then, Snyder's not exactly had the best track record as an artist, right? So I don't know what it means that they weren't supporting him as an artist, when we know damn well that if there's not a good leash on him, he kind of just goes off the fucking rails. Right?
Sucker Punch exists, people, if you want the proof of that. I'm just gonna be honest. Like that is him completely released and on his own.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. But the trailer premieres tonight for Rebel Moon Part 1 as part of the Sunday Night Football game, sometime before the end of the first half. That's what I woke up to. That's the stuff that I'm talking about. Like, I'm getting tweets to articles about trailer releases. And I don't know if marketing just took this time off, going as far back as May, to like figure out how to just really piss you off with how marketed things are to you. But yeah, like I wasn't thinking about Rebel Moon. I didn't even know it was called Rebel Moon, the new Zack Snyder thing, until 4 hours ago, where I saw 4 different things about it. And one of them was a link to an article, and it was an article about the fact that the trailer was going to premiere. Like, okay.
Yeah. But like The Flash is like a hard one to even kind of point to in that regard this year, because it's such a weird animal. Like there were people that didn't want to go see it because of the Ezra Miller stuff. There were people that didn't want to go see it because of the Zack Snyder like effect on it. There were people that didn't really kind of even know what it was, because it was like all of this stuff about how there was time travel and it was going to bring in all of this other stuff from the DC universe, and there's also people that just have been so confused about this character for years now because of all the weird shit and like Batman v Superman, him showing up and things like that, right? Like they dropped the ball so hard on this like shared universe with the DC stuff, and I think the Flash really suffered because of it, but I think the Flash also had its own sins to pay for.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's also 2 other factors on it. They should not have announced that James Gunn is going to be taking over and bringing the whole universe into a new direction until there was nothing available in the universe anymore. Mm-hmm. You don't say that when we got 4 movies that are coming out still. But by the way, we have no faith in those 4 movies.
Yeah,
that's why we hired this guy.
What the hell is going to happen with Aquaman, right?
Well, here's the thing: Aquaman has to be released because as much as we talk about WB making its money by shelving fully completed like things, right? Films are just like tangible created, but we're not going to release it. Essentially, the U.S. government pay us money and we won't release this movie, right? We're like they're like holding the government to ransom. There's no reason that they should have released The Flash. It lose $300 million. A $300 million loss, and then we just keep making movies, right? Like none of it makes sense. Like, if you're looking at a movie, and that movie, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about the Marvels, and all of the projections for that film are saying that it's going to be the biggest, box office flop of a year of box office flops, right? Like, it only made $6 million in its previews to $9 million for The Flash. Like, and again, that you're comparing apples and oranges, and you need to wait till everything's in. But, that was numbers that people were talking about is, how's this movie that started $3 million behind a film that ended up costing WB $300 million going to stack up?
But walk away from the superhero movie stuff at all, though, this is happening across the board. Look at everything going on with Killers of the Flower Moon right now, and it being kind of this weird animal where people are really thinking it might end up being the worst performing movie of Scorsese's career. And there's a lot that's being said about that in regards to, the fact that it's a movie that focuses on indigenous people, and the story was not altered but refocused halfway through and things like that. There's a lot of conversations going on there. And this is about a, for all intents and purposes, Oscar bait film, right? Like it's also happening on that side of the pond as well. It's not just happening to these big blockbuster like superhero epics and like popcorn movies, as it were. It's also happening on the other side, to these supposedly critical darlings, right? Like, so it's not even a question about quality in terms of, not like quality in terms of how well the movie is made, but how well what the movie's aiming for, I guess would be the best way to put it. Like, even movies that are aiming to be heartier meals, as it were, are even they're not getting the audiences in to go and see them. People are just making their decisions just kind of based on just like what they, on entire whims nowadays. I started this whole conversation talking about how, without having kind of the zeitgeist of pop culture like telling me what I needed to be seeing and when, like I was kind of left to my own devices to just take in shit as I pleased. And it definitely has led to some things slipping through the cracks, as we've mentioned. There's plenty of these movies that I just not bothered with, TV shows I have not finished, blah blah blah. But in that regard, I've also found a bunch of stuff that I otherwise would not have really seen, right? And like in that, like I think that Hollywood and film and television industries right now, like they're not really behaving like that's the reality, which is wild, because I feel like this is the reality for everybody. People are just going to do what they want right now. And I think it's going to take a while to get that machine moving again, to point people in specific directions, if we can ever get it going again, if we should ever get it going again.
Yeah, I would vote for not getting it going again. The people, have you seen the new Ghostbusters trailer yet? I have to ask.
I don't know. I had seen something about like the Frozen Earth or something.
Frozen
like that.
Empire.
Yeah. Frozen Empire, yeah. Saw some like promotional stuff about it. But as we talked about with the last Ghostbusters movie and why I was so turned off by it, is like, these seem like really cool family adventure ghosty films. These don't feel like Ghostbuster films to me, and everything I've seen about Frozen Empire so far really drives that home. Like, they really feel like they're trying to like kind of get in on like the Jurassic Park like kind of big epic like special effects epic, and that's just not what I think of when I think of Ghostbusters. But that's a me thing.
Take away the family aspect of it. Frozen Empire just looks like a kind of horror movie. Like, I've been trying to figure. I've seen the trailer 3 times. I cannot believe it. I've seen it one time before the Marvels, and I had watched it 2 other times because it was just one of those situations where people were like, "Have you seen the trailer yet? I'd like to talk to you about it." And you get 4 of those in a day, and I'm like, I'll just watch it. And I was so perplexed by the trailer the first time I saw it. I watched it again immediately, and I mean, like, I'm excited that it's not Gozer related, that it's a new threat. And as someone who knows a bunch of Ghostbuster lore, it does not appear to be something that has ever been explored in any of the Ghostbuster lore before. It is a completely new villainous spirit that is being introduced in the new Ghostbuster movie. But the feel of the trailer is not Ghostbusters. Like, even more so than what you said. Like, it's not family fun times or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it. But we talk about, should that machine even get started again? The way that Ghostbuster fans are already freaking out from a 2-minute trailer and like trying to deduce what are the coats that they're wearing, because I want to get the coat so that I can add it to my cosplay. It's like, it's been on the earth for 4 days, this trailer, and it's enough right now. Like, what you guys have done have made me not want to see it even more than the trailer itself did that. Like, I don't know how to feel about the world right now. I think that's what I was talking about, is that me having to make my own decisions on what to watch without some sort of zeitgeist was wonderful. You know what movie I saw? And it's the last thing I want to talk about, and then we'll transition into the other thing that we said we were going to talk about this week, is No Hard Feelings. The Jennifer Lawrence, like, R-rated, kind of like raunchy high school sex comedy. And that's not what it was. But, like, that's that's what it feels like it's trying to be in the vein of. It's trying to be like a modern American Pie or one of those things. Like high school
it definitely
kids.
sold itself like that.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it wasn't that. I thought it was like something between like a Judd Apatow, like 40-year-old virgin and like American Pie was kind of the way that it was pitched to me.
Yeah.
At least.
I mean, I don't know. I didn't really know anything about it. I just knew that it was Jennifer Lawrence, and I'm interested because
From the guys that made Good Boys, isn't it?
I couldn't tell you. I don't think so. I mean, Good Boys is Point Grey, so is it a Point Grey film? All I know is I really was surprised by how good the film was. Like, it sold itself as one thing, and then it was very different. Gene Stupanitsky, pretty awkward. I don't know. I'm not seeing Point Grey. I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Gene Stupanitsky's Good Boys, and co-written by Stupanitsky, John Phillips' Dirty Grandpa. No Hard Feelings stars Jennifer Lawrence as Down and Out 30-something. So it's John Phillips and Stupanitsky, the guys that did Good Boys and Dirty Grandpa.
So I guess I thought that they were, well, those are two of my favorite movies, Good Boys and Dirty Grandpa.
Right. Yeah.
So
no, I'm not surprised you enjoyed it, because like the pedigree on that and what that movie is supposed to be was I was excited about it.
Super good.
It's just another one that I just haven't
Yeah,
seen
no,
yet.
and I'm not surprised. It's on Netflix now. I will say that. I bought it as soon as it was available because, like, and I'm not even like a big fan of Jennifer Lawrence. I will say that, or I didn't think I was, because then what she did in this and everything that, like, around it, I was like, no, like maybe I judged her too harshly from like a couple of bad interviews. But like I was really impressed with her performance in it. I liked everybody who was in it. Like that was another one that I'm glad that I came to. And I wanted to see it in theaters, but again, like a 4-row theater is not worth the same amount as, a friggin', let's see, it goes all the way to J. So like, no, it's J. I don't even know how it works. Like a 26-row theater that is laser projection and not just old school projection styles. Like the cost is not the same for those two. And I understand why it's more valuable to the theater to price everything at the highest price, but I have to vote with my wallet there and not do it. But I recommend that one. I really do recommend that film.
The other one that Stupanitsky did that I actually really enjoy was the Cameron Diaz one, Bad Teacher, with her and Jason Segel there.
Yeah, that's like 4 really good movies. I didn't realize he was a part of. Yeah, no, I really did that. Yeah, No Hard Feelings was excellent. And I just want to make sure that we shout it out, because that was another one on my list. I would have loved to talk about it as soon as I saw it. Same with like Joyride. Like, I think about all these times where it's like, oh, I don't know how to write for female characters, and then all these great movies that are like female driven now. It's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah, it just sucks that it's also at the same time that the fucking industry
that the industry is dying, and then they get to point at it and say like, this is the reason why.
And it's like, no, because you guys, it's expectations that have been put on the film industry now, is that if a movie doesn't make $1 billion, then it's considered the worst movie ever made. And then everybody shits on it, and we move away from it to do everything we can to make anything that's not that for the next 10 years.
Well, then good news with how Marvel is failing right now. Because like it was good stuff and I'm still going to them. But, it's time for them. And there's a reason why. Marvel themselves have put everything on hold. The only Marvel movie currently coming out in 2024 is Deadpool 3. So they're taking a year to reevaluate. And they've already said Echo. And that is going to be like the new MCU Spotlight, which is for harder hitting, more mature themes. Like, okay. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I thought this was going to be more fun talking about all the stuff that we missed, but I don't know. I just became so cynical and jaded being inundated with advertising for films and TV again.
Yeah, I mean, you got to just decouple yourself from that entire fucking complex.
I know.
Now that I've not been on social media for 6 months now, I didn't know anything about what you said about the last 4 days. I didn't even know the strike was over for 24 hours. That's
kind of cool in a way that you can be removed like that. I don't know. I don't know if I'm ready to do it. But I know that for my mental health, I probably should. Speaking of our mental health, You know what really drives me crazy? A blue shell.
Okay.
Well, we said
I
we
want
were
to talk
going to
about Mario Kart, so I'm going to give it to you. Let's do this.
Where's your transition? What are you going to do? Count down from 3?
I drive an automatic. I don't have a transition.
Oh, this guy. 3, 2, 1. That's what's going to be the big change for Mario Kart 9 is you're going to have to shift using the right stick.
Imagine if they're like they go full on like Need for Speed or like
or Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo. I mean, yeah.
That'd be cool.
Another big movie event that went fucking nowhere this year. By the way, David Harbour needs a goddamn break. That poor man.
Poor David Harbour. He's still got Stranger Things.
Yeah, one more season of that at least.
Yeah.
But then there is Mario Kart, man. So we are sitting here just 2 or 3 days after the release of the final edition to the final package, and I think as a whole package, I adore what they have done with that game. I really do.
I don't disagree.
I'm a little underwhelmed by the last pack that kind of came out, only in that I think that so much of the surprise was kind of given away in advance, like by their own like release of other stuff. Like if they had not released characters until this final like package, that would have been awesome to suddenly just like, oh shit, and on top of everything they added a bunch of characters to it too. But like the idea that we were kind of getting a slow drip of characters already, we were already in a place where we were kind of guessing what characters would be available. We definitely called it on Diddy Kong. I think we even mentioned Funky at some point.
I always mention Funky. I wanted Funky in that game
yeah, and like we mentioned the idea that Pauline was a possibility, but like we didn't really settle on that one. Who's the last?
Peachette was kind of a surprise, but
Peachette was the big surprise for me.
Yeah, and that's because I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, for me, it's because like in Tour, I knew that Pauline was there. I didn't realize that Peachette was a character. I had moved away from Tour before that happened. So
the bigger thing that was really part of this last release that I think is actually the bigger thing that they did was the Mii character costumes that they released a whole bunch of. The idea that you can put on this like all these different characters as these different costumes as your Mii. It's kind of the same. People call it a cop-out, but I think it's actually a cool thing that they do in the Smash games, right? Where like, yeah, we can't have we can't get Sans as like a character in this game, but we'll give you a Sans outfit to wear as your Mii, so it's kind of like you get to play as him and you can like change up your character's fighting style and stuff to do what you think this character would do, right? And they're doing kind of that with Mario Kart. Is like, and here's a bunch of characters that we kind of thought about but realized we couldn't fully flesh them out as their own character, but you could throw them on your Mii, and that's fun, right? And like the decision on some of those costumes to be backwards facing versus forwards facing, like the Goomba, there's like a Goomba Mii costume that if you put it on is backwards facing, so that as you're racing as your Mii, it's actually like the Goomba's looking at you the whole time. Whereas there's other costumes that are not that, and it's just like, why are some of these costumes made for me, for my enjoyment as the viewer, and some of these costumes clearly made to be more immersive as like what the character would probably actually wear.
Well, I mean, what I dig about those is I would never want to be a dolphin in Mario Kart for just like, how's it driving the car? Like I'm really doing that. But as someone dressed up like a dolphin, I'm okay with it suddenly. Ditto like the castle costume. I like, how would a castle from Super Mario Brothers be driving a car?
Yeah, no, I love
becoming
the
that like
costumes.
those
really
ones work.
Interesting to me. Right, it's really interesting to me the choices that they have made in that regard of like which costumes to put out first of all, and secondly how to design them. Like there's a little bit of weirdness about each of them in a way that's really enjoyable, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've only ever raced as the dolphin, but seeing the people wearing the costumes and like I was in a big 12-player room on Thursday night. Like I was just like dicking around a little bit, and then I got a message and they're like, hey, come join us. And that 12 people, I knew about half of them from like real life. Like I've spoken to them. So that was kind of cool. And, you know, it's humbling too, because I'm pretty good at Mario Kart, but then playing with people who have like 10,000 score online, like, oh, I'm in a completely different world right now. But it was a good time. It was fun to have that. And they were all experimenting and trying to figure out the new meta, those people with like 10,000 points. So they were experiencing. It was cool to see all of that in action. But where I will say, I think the problem with this 6th run, which is insane. It's insane to think that like by the 6th one, we really need to figure out a way to sell it, is the 5th one hit so poorly. Like the first 3, it was just courses, and they did a really good job with that. The 4th one they introduced, we're going to introduce a character as well as some courses. And then the 5th one, it just was like, oh, okay. Like I couldn't tell you anything about the 5th one. So they turned up the marketing for the 6th wave, and you're not wrong. There was not a single surprise to me about the 6th wave. And then looking at the 6th wave and the levels that are there, it is so much hooking itself to nostalgia in a way that weirdly the other 5 courses, the other 5 waves didn't feel. And maybe that's just for me because of how much nostalgia I have wrapped up in the courses that were introduced.
I mean, I would point out that every time they released a course pack, we would have a conversation about, like, you remembering the first time you played those courses, whether it was, like, on the 3DS version as you were driving in the car with your parents, or after school with Jay Bro. Like you've done nothing but talk about the nostalgia of this entire promotion. And I think they have leaned into that, in that they've only really done one unique new thing for every pack.
Yeah.
There's only been one unique course for every pack. The other 7 courses have all been remakes of old courses that were available. And like, I applaud them for bringing in the stuff that they did, and I love that they were doing unique shit. And I understand like development and stuff like that, especially for a game that at this point is 15 years old or something, right? Like I get that, I get why those decisions were made, but to say that this pack in particular seemed to lean on nostalgia in a way that the others didn't, I disagree, because like I feel like that's been the entire point of this entire $25 add-on, was to feed that nostalgia with just a slow little drip of kind of new content. But like that was never the point of new content, was never the point of these things. It was all about bringing this old content into this game.
Right. I suppose where I'm focusing more on the nostalgia part of it, because you're not wrong, I have talked about it, and I was about to launch into a nostalgia-fueled rant about these new courses, but the way that you felt about it, like the way that you just described it, I mean, do you have, like, DK Mountain fond memories?
Well, no, that was part of why I've been kind of okay with all of this stuff, is I think we've talked before about my history with Mario Kart, that this is really kind of my Mario Kart.
Right.
Like, I played Mario Kart 64, and before that, I played Mario Kart SNES, the original.
Okay.
And I loved that. But, like, I never really did much of the in-between. I tried Double Dash once and, like, really didn't enjoy, like, the whole Double Dash element to it.
Yeah.
Like, so I never really got deep into that one. So beyond, like, playing 64, which we did in college all the fucking time, because everybody had an N64 with Mario Kart on it.
Or they had a Wii with Mario Kart on it. Because
Right,
that's what happened
like,
at that same time.
But so
I mean, specifically Mario Kart 64. That's what I'm talking about. Like everybody seemed to have that on their Wii. Continue.
Right.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's like, so like I don't have a deep connection to this series in that way. So them bringing in all of these old courses has been really cool for me, because it's a lot of good courses that have essentially like been vetted, right? They know that these are the courses people liked. So like I'm not getting all of the courses from the Wii version. I'm just getting the good ones. Like that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I've really enjoyed that. But no, I don't have like the deep nostalgic links to this. But that kind of puts me in this position as an outsider to be looking at this stuff, because it's all pretty new to me. But it's not hard to see the lines between like the quality of the brand spanking new courses being just choice, like the visuals, the fun surprises, the makeup of that stuff of being awesome, and seeing them kind of, and then the little bit of information I do have about the old ones, like the SNES version, and seeing them updating those to the 3D aspect elements is really cool. But like you can tell a difference between the stuff that they are really focused on and some of the stuff that they were just like, there needs to be another course here, which I feel like is what happened with a lot of the tour stuff, for instance. Like the way that the Mario Kart tour stuff was introduced to this wasn't very appealing to me, right? Like the tour courses all feel kind of dead. Like there's not much going on the sidelines. In terms of what the actual races look like the loops are really kind of hit or miss for me, because they're all evolving courses, like by the nature of it being a phone game, like that rather than have really big worlds, it's these smaller courses where they just change up whether or not you can turn left or right this time, right? And so like that kind of, when it works really well for me, but when it doesn't, it feels very boring, right? The fact that there's not more going on with the courses, that kind of stuff. So like there's definitely a distinct like difference in quality where their focus was for me. And I really do think that for a lot of people, like this has been just a nostalgia tour of like playing these old courses that they love, these and introducing characters that people have kind of been asking for and stuff like that. Like it just feels like this entire thing has, for the last 2 years, been about them trying to really bank on the fond memories people have. I mean, not to mention, as I said, this is also a 10, 15-year-old game at this point that they have been adding to. Like the nostalgia well runs deep with Mario Kart.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I guess I know that you say you never played them before, but then we were talking about, as we were playing like Rosalina's Ice World, and it's like I never played the 3DS one, and yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, 2014, so it's only 9 years old, which is crazy if you think about Mario Kart 8.
Yeah.
It's like, it feels like it has been forever. And part of that is because it goes back forever. Now, there are definitely ones from the booster pack that, like, I hate all the Game Boy Advance courses, like the Cheese World and the Sky Garden, like, because they just feel really short. Like, and in a way that, like, the tour ones are also short, but because of the evolution, it's almost a little bit more engaging. Like the Madrid one, when you're suddenly on a soccer field and you have to avoid soccer balls.
It is certainly more engaging than the shorter courses that the GBA was capable of, right? Like for sure. Like it is a really intelligent move on their part to create those evolving courses rather than settle on the smaller courses that they did in earlier versions of small versions of Mario Kart, right? I think that is a really smart idea. It's just that in that it's a really hard maneuver to pull off, and I just don't think that they'd succeed with every one of them, right? Like one that I think they do succeed on is the latest one, Rome, right? Like that's the big tour course that's in the latest pack.
Well, it's Madrid and Rome are the ones that are added, and Rome is the
Madrid
one
is
that.
But Rome is like really super well done, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that like it's at night and there's really good lighting like elements to it, and so like in terms of the design aspect, Rome works really well for me. On the other hand, I think it's New York City, I think, is one of the first ones that they put out that is just like, it feels like I'm driving through like a polygonal like N64 course that has not been brought into the new the new world, right?
I raced Tokyo like in that big room that I was a part of, and I'm like, and initially I'm like, how do you think they feel? Like, this is Tokyo, and these are people who live in Tokyo. Is it the way that I feel? Like, I've been to New York, I know New York, so they're like some of the like weird shortcuts they took in like the Spider-Man games to make that New York like are glaring. Like that's how they got to feel about Tokyo. And then I'm playing and I'm like, no, they probably are just like, this is just Mario's Tokyo. This is not our Tokyo. Because nothing is going on in Tokyo. There's a reason why I stopped playing Tour. Like, and it's not just because I found out that it lied to you. Like the big thing was, the whole reason I started playing Tour was Will was like, I think I'm not playing against real people, but the game is trying to convince me that I am. So I downloaded Tour and I did it, and I'm like, yeah, that's just the first race. Like the first race is clearly computer like controlled people so that you feel good about it. And then I played it for about a month because it was free, right? You do like one Mario Kart Tour race a day and you kill a little bit of time. It's like a 15-minute break at work. And I'm like, But then I noticed what they were doing, and I'm like, oh no, there are computer control players, and they're like always just going to be a little bit better than you. to like entice you into like buying that character or buying their cart parts. Like realizing that like it was a fake manipulation via the programming of the game to suck more money from you. I'm like, well, now I'm done with it. But the other reason I'm like, but if it were fun, I'm not spending money on mobile games. I'm not that type of person, right? I can download a mobile game and play my one a day and not be coerced into buying tickets to play again or anything like that. And I know that sounds crazy because I'm the kind of person who will like stumble into a boss fight 10 hours earlier than I'm supposed to in a video game and beat my head against the wall for 40 more hours.
Yeah, but there's something about again the veil just being lifted when they say to you, or you could spend $5 and you'll do fine, right? That
Yeah.
like that pay to win like shield that they offer you is like that's kind of ruined it for me, right?
That's insulting. It's insulting that you think I'm going to buy this shield. So now I'm not going to buy the shield. The same spite that keeps me fighting a boss that I have no business fighting for like days on end is what is activated when I'm fighting something like that. And they're like, hey, for $5 real American dollars, you can beat this guy the next time you fight it. But that's not what I'm here for. Go fuck yourself.
Right.
So,
right.
like, that's the thing.
I mean, because the opposite of that is you saying to me, if you don't spend this money, you'll never beat this thing. And it's
Right.
like, well, then in that case, why am I going to keep beating my head against the wall? You're basically telling me it's impossible to do that without giving you more money, and I don't want to do that. So I guess I'm done, right?
Yeah. But the other reason why I stopped, right, because it was fun doing the stupid little races, right, is just how boring the courses were. Like, I was never, like, engaged. It was always like, no, I'll play my one a day and I get my little token for having a streak and all of that, and that's fun. But then it's like, okay, so now I see how it's trying to market to me with FOMO. Fuck that. And I'm not really engaged by these courses.
Right.
Like, so why am I wasting my time? Let's delete it. So like when those were like when we were told you're getting Mario Kart Tour courses, I'm like, oh great. That's something that's getting added. Where's the fun stuff? And all the fun stuff for me was added recently. Like the Daisy Cruiser, DK Mountain, Daisy's Actual Course. I don't know the name of it. It's one of the new ones. Wii Rainbow Road. Like, those are all things that I have deep connection to. As much as I told you that story about Rosalina's Ice World and breaking my hand because you have to drift at the beginning of that one, and the 3DS just being like, go fuck yourself.
Right. Yeah.
When you're trying to drift on. I'm talking the original 3DS that was like made for one specific sized hand, and it is not my hand size, I will tell you that. Claw, like the fact that I have the dexterity I do in my right hand is insane to me. After the time that I spent trying to get all golds on Mario Kart 3DS, like it really was that those GameCube and Wii levels for me, and a lot of those came much later down the line. And then the other one, like I wasn't excited about Bowser's Castle 3. Because I've raced that before, but what they did in the Mario Kart 8 universe, where like most of the level is fucking vertical and you're in like the DeLorean wheel style, the hover wheels, it's awesome. But then like the other weird thing about Mario Kart 8 is it has been out for 9 years, right? It came out May 29th, 2014, and I'm like nostalgic for the airport level. Because I remember racing the airport level for the first time.
Yeah.
So it's like the whole maguga of friggin' Mario Kart 8 is that it's nostalgia.
Yeah. No, it really, more than I think any other Mario franchise right now, it is really leaning into, hey, remember this? Right? Like, I think that Smash kind of fell into that for a while, especially with its character releases, and a lot of stuff that they've been doing with like the Spirit releases and things like that, which they still do pretty frequently, actually. I just found out they added Origami King spirits to that a couple of like a year or two back, and I'm like, now I want to go back and play Smash again just to get Origami King spirits.
I'm
But
too
like,
far behind to go back and play Smash Brothers.
but the way that like Smash kind of was leaning into it for a while, they like transferred that whole like marketing thing over to Mario Kart now, and now that that's over, that yeah, I think I'm curious to see where they lean on some other stuff with that. We do have the remake of Paper Mario coming out, Thousand Year Door, sometime in the next 4 months, right? Like it's early next year.
It's early next year. I'm guessing probably closer to May of next year, though, as weird as that is. And we have Super Mario RPG coming out on Friday. And I will say this, through one of the other podcast connections I have, thank you, Radical Retro Roundup, I was able to play like the demo that they went out to press people on Super Mario RPG for the Switch. And if Mario Kart 8 is all, hey, remember this? Mario Kart, Super Mario RPG is like, hey, I know you remember this, but fuck how you remember it. Here's how we're presenting it now.
Yeah, I think
Like,
there's a lot going on in some of the stuff they've announced that way. Also, the big thing to remember about Super Mario RPG is that we have fond memories of it, and there's definitely a contingency of people that do love that game. But it was not the biggest Mario hit of its time, right? Like it was
I mean,
kind of
it's post
controversial.
Super Mario 64.
Yeah.
Like, it's.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some stuff going on with Mario at that time that when they were like, "Hey, Capcom's gonna make a Mario RPG," or
Square,
whatever,
Square Enix. Yeah.
Square is gonna make a Mario RPG. Like, there's a certain amount of people that were definitely interested and definitely on board for it, but not the wide swath of Mario fans that exist in the world, right? So there's a lot of people that are looking at Mario RPG kind of for the first time, even though they might have been at the right age to even play it back then. Like I have people around me that just were like, yeah, I never really played that one because it's like not a Mario game. And it's like, yeah, I get that, but also I fucking love this game.
Yeah, it's. But I mean, so I got to play through to the Rose Town. Like, I got to get
Okay,
Gino on my team. That's the
nice.
amount that they had available. And,
That's a
like,
lot of that game,
that's.
isn't it?
I mean, it feels like a lot of that game, but, like, I don't know. You get like the first 3 stars really early on, and then like it's slow drip kind of. Like you do all of Nimbus Land spoilers for Super Mario RPG, which I guess should go into effect again because the game is coming out. But there's so much between the 5th star and the 6th star. Like it's 2 full map sections that you go through to do those.
Yeah, no, yeah,
Yeah, it starts real quick. Like you get the first 2 kind of rapid fire, and then
I
even
think,
the third.
well, I think the
like,
bigger thing for me is that I always people think about that game and they think about Gino. I don't think
yeah,
that's a spoiler for anybody, right? Like he's one of the big characters that's in that game and then like never shows up again. When he does show up, people like lose their shit. Like, oh, he's a spirit in Smash Brothers, like that kind of shit, right?
yeah,
But when you play that game, I always forget how long it takes to actually get to him even being in it.
yeah,
Like he's not just there for the beginning, right? Like that is even getting to Malo is a little bit more longer than I remember sometimes, but getting to Gino, I forget how late it is into the beginning of that game that you really collect him as a teammate. And he is like such a face of that game for me, you know?
yeah. You get him at the 5th boss fight, where it's an interesting thing. I mean, I'm not counting Bowser there. It'd be the 6th boss fight if you count the whole like prologue of
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
But like prologue, like to get Mallow, you beat 2 bosses. You beat Bowser and you beat the Hammer Brother, and then you do Croco, Mac, and Balome, and then you get Gino, and then like yeah, it's weird. And then you're that team for a long time. It's Mario and 2 fucking no names for a long time. No offense to Malo or Gino, but from the standpoint in 1997 when you're playing that game for the first time, they're like these new exciting characters that you've never seen before, and then they are shuffled out pretty quickly for Bowser and Peach. You get them one right on top of the other.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember those times everybody played as Mario, Bowser, and Peach. Like that was the what everybody seemed to play as at the time. Like Malo and Gino got relegated to the background.
I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that like people were really excited about the idea of a new type of Mario experience, but when you get into it and you realize how much of not a Mario game it really is, right? And that being said, I think in retrospect, especially since we've had like the Mario Luigi Saga games come out and what's gone on with Paper Mario and stuff like that, I feel like it perfectly fits into the world of Mario now. But at the time, like it was a weird fucking animal. And I think we forget that sometimes because of how well it fits into the whole oeuvre of things now and how much lore has been canonized from it. Like
Yeah.
there's stuff that goes on in that game that at the time was fucking nuts. But now, no, that's actually how we see the world of Mario. Largely in part because of our love for this game, but also because of the ways that other games have harkened back to it and stuff. Like it's hard to think about what that game was when it came out because of how like how much it's part of the whole story for us now. But like it was not the game that people jumped on that we kind of remember it as, at least for me. I always think about jumping on that game because of how much I fell in love with it and how interested I was in it when it came out and all the shots I saw of it and all that blah blah blah. But like there's a contingency of people that are going to be playing this Mario RPG that's coming out that are just like, yeah, this is my first time really getting to dive into it, and I'm happy that this is the way they're going to get to do it, right? That being said, when you look at something like Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door, that seems to be the only Paper Mario game I think anybody I actually played. Everybody I keep asking about Paper Mario, this is the Paper Mario. This is the one that they played, right? Like there isn't a lot of Sticker Star fans out there, right? Even Origami King that I like love, it still is only the second best selling Paper Mario of all time, second to Thousand Year Door.
What's crazy to me is that so we're doing Super Mario RPG, completely skipping the first Paper Mario and going to Thousand Year Door.
Because the first Paper Mario, it was a really good proof of concept, but does not have the depth.
Does not have the depth at all. I mean, I ran through Paper Mario because I was a finalist in a Super Mario RPG tournament, like a trivia tournament online in the very early days of the internet. And they're like, all of the questions in the final round are going to be from Paper Mario. And I'm like, oh, fun. I've never played that game. So I rented it and I beat it in 5 days. Because I was going to school. Like, if I had, like, just nose to the ground, I probably could have finished it. And then, you know, that never resolved, which is a sad part of my life. There was never an answer, and that final round never happened. Because the internet was even crazier in 2001 than it is now.
Yeah.
In terms of that stuff. But I mean, we're going to go deeper into Super Mario RPG once everybody's available. But just because you mentioned how nostalgic Mario Kart 8 is, even just in like the first like hour and a half of Super Mario RPG, the amount of things that are like, oh, I know you remember it this way, but go fuck your memories.
Yeah.
Has been really interesting. And also, like, just to put it into perspective, before it comes out next week and we take a deeper dive into it, like, you have Yoshi's Island come out in 95, right? Completely different from any Mario game that's come before it. Then you have Super Mario 64, which is, again, completely different from every Mario that's come before it. And then there comes 97, and what's this? Is another Mario game that is completely different from everything that came before it.
Right.
And weirdly, like if we were talking about the Zelda timeline, each of those broke off into their own genres of games.
Right.
Like you can't look at any of them as a failure because all of them like kind of lifted themselves up and moved forward.
Yeah. No, they all succeeded more, you know, and you know, we already said once, like this episode, nobody can look at success with any nuance nowadays, right? Like they can't, like if a game does not make, you know, $1 billion and you know move 4 million units in sales, then it's not worth going back to, right? And that sucks. That there's no middle tier, there's no love for mediocrity anymore, right? And not even a mediocrity in like the quality of the game itself, but in its success in the world, right? Like we can't deal with a game that sells just enough.
Right. That like makes its money back. I don't know. It's going to be a weird time. I'm excited for Super Mario RPG though. Even more excited after getting to play that demo a couple of days ago.
Jealous.
Well, you know, I mean, you're going to get to play the game fresh, right? All I want to do is keep playing the game, Siege, and I don't get to do that. I have to wait till Friday. It was a cool experience, though. I am glad to have gotten it. And
Do
thanks
you have
again.
like a do you have any idea about like a time on when that game will be available? Because like as somebody that has pre-ordered it, because I it was the second game I got with my voucher, with Mario
So,
Wonder
I
being
mean,
the
for
first.
you, it should be available either at midnight or 1 a.m.
Okay.
My guess is going to be midnight because it'll be available in Australia as soon as it becomes midnight there. Because that's how a lot of people play the stuff. The way that the
Hmm.
eShop is, like, people will be streaming it on Thursday because technically, if you have an Australian like system, as soon as it goes live when the new day starts in Australia, you'll be able to start playing it.
But it won't go live for
It
American
doesn't go. It
customers.
goes live at midnight in your region, usually. But there are times where in America it'll go live at midnight in the Pacific time zone. So that's why it's either going to be noon or 1 a.m. for you. I mean, midnight
Okay,
or 1 a.m. for you.
I got you.
I mean, if you look at it, because you have it preloading should probably start being available Monday or Tuesday, and then that will give you a countdown to when it's available.
Yeah, well the title card is already on my Switch.
Yeah.
It got me all overexcited because
excited?
I was like, oh no, did I misjudge when it came out? And then I went to go hit it, and it's like this isn't available yet. It's like, well then, why is it here? Why is it in my list already?
Yeah. I mean, like, that's just based on other stuff. But they are very good about the midnight. It's not going to be like 10 a.m. on the 17th.
Okay.
It's not
Alright.
like where Steam will do it that way because they're waiting for some, like, global timer to tick down. Which, I mean, that's just how it is. I don't propose to know everything about it, but yeah. You should definitely be able to play it Friday. And if you're up late on Thursday, give it a shot, is what I can say to you.
All right. I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
super excited.
Me, I'm not going to have it until the stores open on Friday because I want to get a physical copy. I mean, like, I remember finding my physical. Well, we'll save that for next week because we have a task, Sejohn.
Oh.
I'm coming at you with a task. I'd like to keep this task specifically going, if not some of the other tasks going, but this is one I knew we were going to do. The next episode we record is going to release the Monday before Thanksgiving. And as much fun as I've had with all of this other stuff, doing, playlists and things, I'd like to create our Thanksgiving playlist, Sejohn.
Okay. Okay.
So I am going to give you a couple stipulations. Is going to start with the Thanksgiving song by Adam Sandler. Because, we're the Say Report. We also do the Adam Sandler Cinematic Universe. It'd be weird not to start there. And it's going to end with Alice's Restaurant.
Alice's
20
Restaurant
minutes.
was a classic in
Yeah.
in the old house, the old homestead
Yeah.
when we were growing up for Thanksgiving. Put that on in the background while we're all eating dinner type shit.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, those two, I mean, like, those are big Thanksgiving songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we got the start and we got the end. And there are 6 more slots to fill. So that's 3 from each of us.
All right.
Now, it can be songs that
holiday.
mean something to you because it's Thanksgiving. I think some of the old marching band stuff might come up on my end.
Just a bunch of John Philip Sousa. The entire list is just John Philip Sousa and Alice's Restaurant.
Yeah, no, but I'd like to. I mean, I really enjoyed putting together the last 2 playlists we did. Got a lot of like good things about the Spooky Songs 3 playlist. I had a lot of fun making that one. And I got to tell you, I may have already said this here. Like, everything's such a whirlwind now that TVs and movie are back on the table. I didn't think it was going to affect my mental state the way that it has, but it has. But when I listened to that for the first time on Spotify, that Spotify recommended via the algorithm the Monster Mash as the next song told me that we put together a good like spooky playlist.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So yeah. So we're gonna put it at. So yeah.
So my request to you is because we could start talking about movies and televisions and films and all this stuff again, right? I need some holiday stuff to get into this year, Dev, and I don't mean just necessarily Christmas, but like I want a short. I needs to be something in the 30-minute range, preferably shorter. But like, so I have a long history of like for Thanksgiving Day and for Good Friday, just putting on like Mystery Science Theater and letting that just run all day, right, and that kind of thing, right. But as we have not been able to talk about a lot of stuff for the last 6 months, I want something I want something new. I want something fresh. So I need a short of some kind, holiday oriented. For instance, I was talking about this with a family, and I think that they all decided that we definitely want to watch, Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving, right, which is a nice little 30-minute.
Well, that's a good thing. I would
short.
never recommend it. I hate Charlie Brown's Thanksgiving. Popcorn and toast.
But to give you an idea of the kind of like experience I'm talking about, right? Like, so bring me something, and I will find something fun and new and exciting to bring to the table here.
Excellent. That's good. And then we can watch them and talk about them the next episode.
All right.
It's good. We're building. Yeah. So we'll have a Thanksgiving playlist for you next episode. That should be fun to build. And we'll have some short recommendations. I love this. These are really good tasks, especially now that TV and movies are on the table. And I guess the last thing, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Because you just said the magic word for me to talk about something.
I have Robert De Niro really is a dirty grandpa.
I mean, we can get back to our list of things to talk about. Frasier Boston. Dear God, do I want to go Frasier Boston hard? But I know, but I want it to be done.
Point that out on my list is because we gotta talk about it once I think it all does its thing.
Yeah.
The only other thing is for some reason somebody posted, I think Disney posted a bunch of really well maintained Roger Rabbit cartoons, a bunch. I think there's 3 that are in existence, which was like a weird move. I don't know why they decided to post those this summer,
because they needed some good press. We'll get. I mean, my list, I've only struck out like 4 things, and I'm excited to talk about the other stuff too, like iCarly 2.0 getting canceled on a huge fucking cliffhanger. I'd like to talk about that, but. Yeah.
No, but we've pretty much exhausted my stuff for today.
All right, cool. So here's the thing that would have been fun to talk about if we could talk about movies and theater at the time, movies and television at the time. Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode on Monster A Go-Go. They talk about Timothy, the song about cannibalism. And Joel assures the bot that is a well-known fact that Timothy was a duck. But geez, I gotta tell you, like that was like, I want to talk about it, but we couldn't. We couldn't talk about Mystery Science Theater 3000, and it's weird.
Fair, I'm pretty sure a lot of that stuff is public domain and all that, but I don't know about the boys themselves. They may be
their jokes would be count as struck work, like because that's the thing that they're creating and it's a whole fucking crazy thing, and we'll have more time to get into it. But I don't know. In terms of the first episode after the strike, this felt pretty good.
Yeah, pat ourselves on the back. Let's do this.
I don't know. I'm happy that things are back. More struck work and all that. Please continue talking to us. It's been great to hear from you guys on subjects that are not movies and TV. And now that I'm over inundated with that stuff, I don't want that to go away. So, listeners, thank you for weathering the storm with us. I had a good time, and I hope that we don't just fall back on movies and TV, because it was fun broadening our horizons. Is my last thing on that. Anything else from you, Siege?
Nope.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed what you listened to, we can still be reached at our email address, thesayreport@gmail.com. Now we'll get on the Discord server. I know it's very easy to do it, but like I don't want to go in half-baked is the biggest thing for me. I want to make sure that it's fully formed. And now is the time to focus on that. So we'll have that for you soon. But in the interim, the best way to get in touch with us, shoot an email to thesayreport@gmail.com. And again, if it's for specifically Sejohn or myself, just put that in the subject line and it will be sorted as necessary. Until then, William, please bring us home. And have a good one, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host, Devon Decker and Sejohn Serwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.